Hello, everyone. 'Tis I, Madame Askew. We are here in the mess of the Workshop of Doom, and it is Bastille Day. Happy Bastille Day, everyone. You know what? I love a holiday that is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's very nice. Or at least liberté, égalité, and fraternité, brotherhood, camaraderie, connection. What a wonderful holiday to be celebrating. So happy Bastille Day, everyone. We are in the Workshop of Doom. I do have more of a celebration for you later on this week. On Friday night, we're hosting our 5th annual Bastille Day cog match game. Oh my goodness. We're going to have such a good time. There are still opportunities to sign up to compete. And we have 3 incredible guests. We are joined by David R. Slayton, Amanda from Yester Queers, and Shannon Maguire. This is the first time Shannon has joined us. We're very excited. We're chuffed as chips that she has agreed to give our brand of nonsense a try. Hello, my darlings. Hello, Joanne. Hello, Phyllis. Welcome to Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. It's so good to see you both. Thanks for joining me on Twitch and YouTube. I do think those are the 2 best places to tune in, personally. So thanks for joining me there. I'm so hot, my darlings. It's very warm, and I am questioning many of my life choices, including my decision to dress all in black today. But you know, it went very well with my bicorn, and sometimes you just have to wear a bicorn. And if not Bastille Day, when? Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love this ridiculous hat. I don't get to wear it very often, so it's nice to bring it out. Part of the challenge, to be honest, is it creates crazy shadows on your face, but also this bit in the back really makes it hard to sit in chairs. But I love it. I love the conceit of it. I love the scope of it. I love the style. Everything about this hat really charms me. Occasionally, I wish I'd gotten the sideways variety. I'm not going to lie, but as you can see, this one will not sit side to side. It's not designed that way. This is a great question. Joanne asks, are you getting the monsoonal moisture we're getting? It's hot here and humid. Yes, we have been getting some actual monsoon rains, which we have not really enjoyed in, oh heavens, so long, actually, proper monsoon. So we've had several proper monsoons over the last week or so. It drops the temperature, which was really nice. For those of you who don't know and you're tuning in, I live in the desert, in the Sonoran Desert. It's where I'm exiled for my sins. And it's beautiful here and I love it, but also it's so hot, and summers are really brutal. And we have been having extremely dry summers. Climate change is definitely alive and well here. It's had a big impact on our weather. And so we used to get monsoons all the time. It was a big part of our sort of weather pattern. Anyway, now that I've gone on a sort of like an explainer of the weather, but yeah, no, so we haven't had proper monsoons in a while, so it's been really nice to have those. And look, the temperature dropped well under the hundreds yesterday for quite a while, and that was incredible. I'm not going to lie. So, hello, Alicia. Happy Bastille Day, my friend. Welcome to tea time. I'm so happy to see you. Well, I mean, it's Stitch and Twitch time, but also tea and nonsense. As you do. So I'm going to try today to tackle putting in the zipper in my frock. I need to do it. I've been putting it off for a few reasons. One, because like a lot of historical sewists, I don't do a lot with zippers. So I'm not like super quick at them. I can put one in, I know how to put one in, but it's not the main sort of closure I put in on a regular basis. Normally I'm doing grommets and hooks and eyes and buttons and occasionally, very rarely, snaps. Those are usually for the grand arbiter because I am a kind person. But he also gets zippers periodically. So he keeps me sort of in some form of practice of doing zippers. Hello, Bess. Hello, happy Bastille Day. I need to put the zipper in, and this is my Gertie dress, and I've like read through the instructions, which is, look, one thing I really recommend, whether you follow the instructions or not in a pattern is a different story. But I really recommend before you get started with a garment to read the entire instructions, to review them. I do this with all of the things I'm making for the first time. I do not necessarily do this with a pattern I've made a million times that I feel very comfortable with, and I like have my own approach and method for doing it. And if you've taken classes with me, you know sometimes I have to pause and go, oh, what do they say in the instructions? Because I've made the thing so many times, and then I have to go back and review. But usually when I'm getting to know a pattern, the very first thing I do is I read the instructions. Now, this serves a lot of purposes. One, it gives me sort of a sense of the scope and the difficulty of the project. Usually, sometimes I lie to myself. It's another, that's a personal problem. It also lets me know if I'm going to use the methods outlined in the instructions, or if I have a technique I prefer for doing the same thing. If I, like this is, to be honest, I'm working on a Gertie pattern, one of her charm patterns. This is the Liz dress. Very excited to be making it. Her instructions are excellent. They are so good. I've mentioned this multiple times. So at no point was I going through this going, oh, I don't like her method. I was like, ooh, I haven't done some of these things. I was like, ooh, I haven't done that before. I'm interested to see how this goes. But when I'm looking at like a Simplicity, Butterick, McCall's, Vogue patterns, Burda, the sort of like big guys, I do not feel compelled to use their approach. Simplicity, sometimes they do things in a simple way that's more complicated or less efficacious, or I hate the way it looks finished, so I like throw it out. Vogue is sometimes can be complicated in places where I'm like, there's no point in being this complicated. No one will ever see it. If I do this by machine, no one will ever know except for me that I'm going to do the simple way here. So with those sorts of patterns, I feel they're perfectly comfortable using my own method, my own approach. And oftentimes I'm doing things from them like making a skirt or, like a very simple bodice. I know how to do those things. There's no magic. Let's see here. Alicia says, I should be sewing as well, but I've been mostly reading today. I will tackle the kaftan tomorrow. It just needs assembly. Alicia, congratulations. Assembly is a great place to be at. Also, look, I have it on good authority that we have our steampunk book chat this Sunday. I should also be reading. I need to finish the book before book chat. Oh my gosh. Beth says, well, I ran out of thread for my project over a week ago, and have I ordered more? Not yet. Oh, Beth, look, I feel that. One of the other holdups with this project was the lack of a zipper. So I really couldn't put in a zipper without a zipper. And I'd ordered one and it got lost. And then I had to reorder it. And I really put off ordering the second one, I think partly in hopes that I would find the original zipper, to be honest. And partly because I was like in denial about how I needed to put a zipper in the dress in order to wear the dress. An interesting place to be like, oh, do I really have to put the zipper in? Yes, you do, madam. Um, Oh, I love this. Alicia says, oh, hello, Martha. Hello, my friend. Happy Bastille Day. Thank you for joining me here and joining all of us. So Alicia says, I haven't started book club yet. Have the book, just trying to get things off the TBR list. Good on you. Good on you. I feel like maybe I'm not a slow reader, but I haven't had good chunks of time to simply sit and read without distraction, except fairly late at night when I'm tired and my eyes get tired. And so then I don't read as quickly. So over the weekend, I actually left my, ghost cat hermitage and bird sanctuary, and I went out to a tea cafe just so I could have 2 uninterrupted reading hours. So I'm not saying the cats are the problem. They're not, actually. Although they would like for me to be still so they could lay on me. Um, and so they want to get between me and the book, which makes it a bit difficult. Phyllis says, I really liked the book and just started the second in the series. Excellent. I'm so delighted, Phyllis. Look, I haven't finished it, but I've read other things by the author, Roshani Chokshi, and I really liked those. I think her writing is so beautiful. Very engaging. So the previous thing I read by her was definitely for adults, and this is more of a young adult or, like teens kind of thing, or at least that's how it's marketed. I don't know how I feel about that category in this case, but what I do know is that the writing and the character development and everything is on par with what I had experienced in her other writing. And I'm really excited to be getting into it and discussing it with all of you. So that's Sunday, my darlings. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Alicia says, I have some of this month's authors' books on my list, but they are horror, I think. So she wrote this one was called The Last Flower Bride. Is that right? Something like that. I don't have the title quite right. That's the one I read by her. It definitely has some elements that are a little bit, say, spooky, a little scary, maybe a little not thrillerish, but a little gothic. I managed it, so I didn't find it to be pure horror, but it definitely had some moments where I was like, oh no, oh. But it's really good book. I love it. So happy reading on that. That's the book that introduced me to the author's work. I was moderating a panel at Tucson Festival of Books, and she was one of my authors, and so I read that book to get ready for the panel, and she was really lovely, by the way. So anyway, yes, books. So also sewing, right? So what happens with this zipper is that it's sort of like a little bit of a lapped zipper rather than a hidden zipper, which is, a bit different. I think a lot of us in modern dressmaking terms are used to the patterns calling for a hidden zipper. And, look, I have mixed feelings about putting in a hidden zipper. They were so hard for me as an early sewist. I really struggled with them. I was talking about this recently. I think it was in the sewing chat on Discord, but it might have been during a stream. It's very hot. My brain is fried. So But it was one of those moments, and we was talking about it with Cindy Joy, and we were talking about putting in zippers, and sometimes the best approach is just to put it in by hand with a pick stitch. It's a very couture approach to putting in a hidden zipper. It works very well. So I've definitely done that many times, especially when I was starting out and I struggled to put them in by machine. But I'm eager to put this one in by machine and to practice this new approach, try this new technique. The worst that happens is I have to get my seam ripper and take it out, which is definitely a pain in the tuchus, but not the end of the world. So Phyllis says, the Instagram, Facebook clips make zippers look so easy. Yes, they do. They really do. And part of that is that I think those people are very practiced. Some of the videos may now also be AI, and it's really hard to tell, which is very frustrating. You have to watch out with the like really slick, cool, like fabric manipulation videos, because some of those are straight up AI, and then you get in and you're trying to do what they're doing, and you're like, but the fabric doesn't move the way it's AI. But in the case of most of these videos, I think for things like zippers, they skip over so many steps. They don't show you the preparation. They don't show you how they got there. And they are probably, a lot of the ones I see are for people who are like professional manufacturers in a really professional setting, where they've probably put in like thousands of zippers. So they have a lot of practice. We're not that demographic. We're not that sort of people here, me, you. We're not those kinds of sewists. We're not putting in thousands of zippers in a year. We're doing a few zippers on our own garments for our own personal wear or as gifts. And so trying to get a really nicely done zipper with a lot of detail and maybe, not as much top stitching is tricky. Now, there's going to be top stitching involved in this zipper, to be totally clear. But also, I hope it will be super slick when I'm done. So first things first, I need to make certain that everything lines up. My waist on both sides is in the right position. I have to go in and press things just so at the right width dimension fold over. So I've got my hot press ruler to help with that. I have got two different zippers. I am leaning towards using this one. They're both black. Originally, I bought a really beautiful charcoal gray zipper to go with this charcoal gray dress. On short notice, I just took the black zipper I could get. I don't even remember where I got that. I don't know what happened with that zipper. So this one, I'm sort of leaning towards. The teeth are a little big, so this might be a bad choice, but it's also metal zipper. I really love a metal zipper because they hold up a little bit better. They're a little stronger. So I really appreciate that. This garment is going to be zipped and unzipped a lot. So I'd like it to have a really good, strong zipper. This is a nylon zipper. This is what you're going to find more commonly at like your Michael's, your local sewing stores. It's certainly what we found the most commonly at Joann's back when Joann's was a going concern. The zipper is narrower, so it makes the zipper teeth are smaller. That will make it a little bit easier to hide. So it's a really like sick, do I want it to be hidden? More? Do I want it to be stronger? I'm leaning towards I want it to be stronger. Now, you can see the teeth size difference. It's noticeable, but it's not so wildly different. So it's probably like a millimeter or two different in size. So I'm gonna start with the metal one and see how I get on. If I have to change my mind midway, that will be unpleasant for me, but not the end of the world. So, right. And at least I have more than one zipper this time. I bought several zippers. I was very paranoid after losing the last one. So now I'm going to line up my frock. Right sides together. I'm going to make certain that everything lines up properly. I.e., the waist is in the right place when the top edge of the bodice is lined up. Good news, it's in the right place. So now I'm just going to pin that for a moment. So one thing I did as preparation to get ready for this is a step I haven't used before. This is something that Gertie recommends, especially if you are not lining your skirt. I'm not lining my skirts. I live in a hot climate. The fabric is opaque enough. I will be wearing a petticoat with it. With the knowledge that I'm putting a petticoat under it, I just decided to save myself some time and suffering not to line it. So if you're not lining it, if your fabric is a little bit delicate, Gertie suggests putting in a little stay tape. So you can see I've got just a short length of stay tape that runs from the waist to the end of where my zipper is going in to this garment. So, and that is just a little tricot stay tape. It's actually basted in position, so it's not fusible. And the zipper will go right over that. It will help sort of keep the fabric from stretching on me. It will make for a good, solid foundation for that zipper. So very important. I really need to also, once I've done my pressing, go in and finish stitching the seam from under the zipper to the hem. When I am usually doing zippers using techniques I've learned, I leave this seam open until I've put the zipper in, and then I finish it post zipper. I find it can be a little bit easier, but I really want everything to line up. I'm trusting Gertie's process, and she recommends sewing this bit up before you put in the zipper. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow her instructions. But I also really need to press this up a bit, over a little bit, to get it lined up properly for her process. And I feel like that's going to be a bit easier done right now whilst I'm at the pressing table and I don't have everything stitched together. I could be quite foolish in this regard, but I'm going to give it a try. So now that I've made certain everything aligns properly, good news for me, let's go in and do some pressing. The way this frock goes together, my darlings, is ingenious and also a little bit like working with a Mobius strip at times. There were really some moments where I wept a little bit at my sewing machine because I did not quite understand how she meant things to go together. And it was hard to visualize. And the diagrams are very good, but it took me a little while to interpret what she was drawing in the diagrams. Also, I love this hat. It's very warm and I'm having a hot flash. So we're just going to set it to the side for now. Since we're going to be pressing, I think I need to cut down a little bit on the heat before I overheat. So the way it works is one side for this method, we're going to be pressing under a 1/2 inch. And the other side, we're going to fold over 5/8 of an inch. So the seam allowance for this garment is 5/8 of an inch. So that little play of 1/8 of an inch is really where the zipper fits in and gets a little bit of that lapped quality. Ooh, this is fun. So Alicia says, sometimes I initially baste the whole side and go back after the zipper is in and sew the area under the zipper with a proper stitching length. This is also a very solid suggestion and a good solution. Thank you, Alicia. That's good advice. I know when doing an invisible zipper, one of the methods, heavens, I'm really having hot flash, pardon me. So one of the methods is to baste the entire seam. You're going to put your zipper under and then sew in your invisible zipper whilst that seam is basted, then go in and snip out the basting and voila, there's your invisible zipper. So this is like a very classic, very solid approach to doing a zipper. I will say one thing I've learned over the years is almost everything has multiple ways to go about doing it. And some of those techniques, they're very equivalent in the final appearance. It has a lot to do with the fabric you're working with, or the amount of like visible machine sewing you want to have, or speed, comfort, personal preference. But like end result, you're going to get a nice zipper. So, all right, now that I'm not about to die from heat, oh my goodness, I have my like little secret weapon now. I'm in love with this stupid thing. It's very helpful. Okay. I also have a fan up above. I have so many fans. All right. So first things first. So we need to press under the underside a 1/2 inch. So we're going to start there. It's going to be the right side of my frock. We're not worried about the lining right now. That's just, we're leaving it separate. I have my very handy hot fix ruler so that I can line things up and just go to town without having to worry about melting my zipper. I will say also at this point, there's a lot of fabric here. It's a lot of dress. The dress calls for an 18-inch long zipper. I could not get an 18-inch zipper, so I've got a 24-inch zipper, which I will shorten later. All right. Ooh, I really need to pick out some stitches here. I've still got still have my gathering stitches in place, everyone. Bunch of threads that need to be trimmed. Well, at least I know where I was at because I can see what I did not finish. So let me just at least trim off some of these very long threads. We need to press up our waist seam, it looks like. Oh my goodness. I really have a lot of pressing to do, honestly. So now I'm not like, I think we've all been there where you're in the middle of a project and you realize you set it down and you come back to it and you're like, oh no, I forgot I needed to pull these gathering stitches. And it's not like it's hard to do, but it's very easy to forget. Oh my gosh, Alicia says, I feel bad for you, but also happy the sun has finally gone down here. Tomorrow it will be in the 90s, but at least it's a low humidity. Alicia, you know, honestly, I do not like the heat. I do often wonder how I ended up in such a hot place. But I know that there are places where you're just desperate for it to not be cold. So you know, I am cognizant, and also I just got back from a place that should not be hot, where they had a heat wave. England, Ireland, Scotland, and it was horrific and so humid, and we definitely went on all of these walks all over the place, and I would just start to be overcome by the heat, and the grand arbiter was really like startled. Why are you struggling? It's still like 20 degrees cooler than it is back in the Sonoran Desert. And I had to explain that it was like the humidity was really you know, terrible. That the humidity at a certain point makes all the difference. I would say, you know, we have a saying here that it's a dry heat, and that certainly is true. It is. But I have to tell you, that only matters when it is over a certain temperature. So if you get over 100 degrees, the fact that it's a dry heat really helps. Well, I guess it's in a temperature range is what I mean. I'm sort of rambling, but once you get over 114, 112, it doesn't matter. It's just horrifically hot. But in that like 90-degree range to 100-ish degrees, the humidity is the problem. Is so brutal. So I'm happy for you that the humidity is low. All right, let's take a look at what I'm doing here. My messy workspace. So I have to consider the turn of the cloth. And initially I thought I would need to baste in my stitch line, but it does not look like I have to. I can just go in and press this over a 1/2 inch. I'm just bringing it not quite to the full 1/2 inch mark, because once I move this out and I press it fully, it goes to the 1/2 inch because this has a little bit of thickness to it. So I've learned to come up to, almost up to, but not quite all the way to the 1/2 inch mark. You'll also notice that I did not serge all of my edges. I serged a lot of them, but not all of them. places where I knew the fabric was going to be encased by the lining, I just did not feel a need to add that additional thickness. And then I just like to go in and confirm really is a 1/2 inch. And I can also come in here with my clapper and just like reinforce that, pressing a little bit. It's quite thick with the different layers of fabric. You can also see here where I have still got my gathering threads that I really, really need to pull out. So that is a thing that needs to happen, but I'm not going to do that on screen with you. That's very boring. Just watching me pull threads. Ooh, if you are not familiar with the comedy troupe Foil and Hog, you should check out their videos about England and Ireland in the summer. So funny. Alicia, thank you. I'm not familiar with them, so I'm grateful for the recommendation. I'm always keen for, you know, more comedy. I love comedy, which is, I think, should be no surprise to all of you. All right. So I'm just pressing this 1/2 inch to the place where the stay tape ends. That's the end of the zipper. And then once that's done, go over and do the same thing on the other side, only 5/8 of an inch. Go in with my clapper. I'm also pin marking this for myself so I remember where the end of the stay tape is when I'm going in to stitch things. Okay. So one done. Cannot believe I forgot to like, this is not egregious, right? But I'm just like, oh, I really forgot entirely that I had just stepped away, left all of these gathering stitches in place. Lots of threads needing snipping, as well as these scissors absolutely need to be sharpened. They're an older pair that I just keep here by the pressing table. And I'm like, I can hear and feel that they really need to be sharpened. They're fine for snipping threads though. Oh my gosh! Wow! Hello! How nice to meet you, DJ Crash Crash. How kind. DJ Crash Crash says, hello, I saw your consults. I'm romancing the vote and I loved your sense of style. So now I'm here. Hello, welcome. This is our Tuesday night stitching, well, bitch and stitch, really. Or stitch and bitch, or how I can never remember the order of the idiom, to be honest, which is wild. But I talk about sewing. We do some sewing. We chit chat about all sorts of things. So thanks for joining us. How delightful. And thank you for the compliment. Oh my gosh, Alicia, this is the comedy troupe you're talking about. Alicia says also the French interview is gold. Oh my gosh. So this comedy troupe Alicia is recommending everyone is Foil, Arms and Hog, a troupe I've never heard of and I clearly need to check out. Thank you, Alicia. I love more comedy. All right, so Now, this is my frock. I really need to go in here, pull out these gathering stitches. You can still see the one, and then press up make sure this is nice and pressed and good, nice and crisp here at the waistline. I'm going to skip that step for now whilst we are live together so I can focus on the zipper portion of our adventure. And also so I can just get that zipper in because I've been putting it off. So it's time to do the zipper, as it were. All right. There's a lot I really legitimately love about Gertie's approach to doing these frocks and everything. I think it's really, really beautiful method. Seem to be very clean. And one of the things is how she puts her neck edge together over the zipper. I cannot really describe this super well. It's one of those things when I was in the directions for the pattern and I was reading about it, I was like, what is she saying? What is she talking about? But then once I did it and I saw it, I was like, oh, that's very clever. But it results in the top being stitched together and encased before you put the zipper in, so that you don't have this weird difficulty of getting that nicely closed over your zipper. So your zipper will be sort of already in a nice little sort of pocket. So I love that. Really, really good. Great bit of construction, but also follow her instructions because I cannot describe it myself. Alicia says, I think it depends on the night and what the machine decides. Yeah, no, yes, absolutely. Sometimes the machine has decided that I am the butler and I must do what it says. Okay. So what I'm doing, since I really need to press up the waist and make sure it's really crisp, but also I really want to get this zipper at least started and in, I am doing a proper press on the first few inches just to make it nice and crisp where the zipper is going in. You can see this little bit does not have any gathers there. That's the area around the zipper. Makes it a little bit nicer and tidier, not to have your gathers go all the way right up into the zipper. You want a sort of like nice, smooth area next to the zipper. It creates less bulkiness too. And so if you've ever had like a frock where you're pulling up the zipper and you get to the waist, it's really hard to like get it over the waist and get it zipped even though it fits. It's like sticking on the fabric or something. That is sometimes caused by there being just like extra bulkiness there. And so the zipper just has a little bit of a hard time going over that hump of fabric. Certainly a little bit of grading can help, and you know, some good pressing can make a difference, but sometimes you just don't want to have the bulkiness there. So right, we're going to go in, we're going to press this other side at 5/8 of an inch, which is a little bit tricky for me because I'm used to doing all 1/2 inch seams. I've been sewing, historical sewing for such a long time, and I'm just like, 5/8, why do you need such a large seam allowance? I know there's a reason for it, but historical sewing has spoiled me. So I was recently helping our dear Sarah Blade Creations. She's Archer Blade on the Discord, with a fitting, and she's doing a new project for Costume College, and it's a new era and a new silhouette, and I'm very happy to help her with the fitting, of course. And we were both sort of laughing that this particular garment uses a 3/8 seam allowance. We're like, who does that? 3/8. We're so used to that 1/2 inch seam allowance. And she needed just like a little bit adjustment to make it smaller all the way around. It needs to have less ease. And so we realized that if she just made all of her seam allowances a 1/2 inch, that would fix the problem. We were like, see, it needs to be 1/2 inch the whole time. All right, so once again, I'm coming almost up to, but not quite all the way up to my 5/8 mark on the ruler, because I know that when I remove the ruler, I'm going to lose a little bit of that thickness, and so my fabric turn will go further. I'm using a really hot iron. This is cotton fabric. It's cotton quilting fabric. In fact, it will take the heat. Without a problem. Very handy. The other thing I find anytime I need to do like this 5/8 seam allowance sort of business, it looks so wide. I have to go in and recheck it a few times just to convince myself that I have not made a terrible error. And I'm just really used to that 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, let's go in, give it one last good press, and use our clapper. Those are not in the know, it's your clapper. You use the clapper to reflect the heat back into the fabric, so it really helps crisp up your pressing, and it's especially useful when you are dealing with sort of like thicker areas like this waistband area, or up here where I've got a few layers of fabric that have all come together. So it really helps me get a nice crisp press there. And then just for good measure, putting my clapper on the second half of that area. So now we've got the area pressed in. It's sort of in the beginning stages of getting ready to put a zipper in. If you're doing an invisible zipper, you really need to press your zipper. This is something that I often neglected as a new sewist, but you need to press it so that you sort of roll it open. With these zippers that are not meant to be hidden, it's less of an urgency in pressing the zipper. But I like to, when I'm here at the cutting table, it's nice to just press the ribbons a little bit, make sure they're ready to go and they're nice and smooth before I go in and stitch them to my very fussy garment that I've been working on. I did turn my heat down on my iron, but I also moved very quickly for this. Zippers usually have some sort of polyester, synthetic tape. Just the nature of the beast. Don't burn yourself on the metal teeth, as I just tried to do. Very uncomfortable. All right. So now, technically, we're ready to start getting into some stitching. Now, I am absolutely going to be using a lot of pins for this process, and my zipper foot. I have a couple of zipper feet. I'll show you some of the options. I think I have them all readily available. Fingers crossed. I think I have everything organized and ready to go amazingly. So we're going to be looking at that, my preparation. I would say I'm probably I might be skipping over some details with the zipper. So if there's a thing I'm doing and you're like, but why though? Please ask me. I will pause and explain. I do think I take my zippers a little bit slower, certainly than those Instagram reels, the Facebook reels. I am not sort of decrying those because some of them are quite useful, but I will say they go very fast, and so it's hard to understand fully what they're doing. The only way to travel with this hat is on your head. And I like to put it at an angle because I think it looks better and sassier that way, to be honest. This is a little personal addition to the hat in honor of Bastille Day. It did not come with the tricolor in honor of Bastille. That's fine because you can make your own. Okay, my darlings, now the hard part. We're going to move across the room to the sewing machine and get stitching. Very excited. Also, I don't think I'm procrastinating it at this point, but I am sort of like putting off the inevitable, like grab all the things and try and maneuver them as quickly as possible in one armful across the sewing machine because I'm not lazy. I just don't like moving back and forth. I sort of like being in one place with all of you, if that makes sense. So I'm always like, oh, can I put off moving? How much can I do at one workstation? How long before I have to actually move to the other spot? So here we go. Now you're going to get a wild angle. Oh, my messy ironing station. Really need to clean my workshop. I have not properly tidied and cleaned since I made the Dark Academia. So it's still very messy in here, everyone. Needs a lot of TLC. All right, Monsieur Gatteau. Oh, hey, sweet boy. He is ready for some attention. Hello, my darling. Hello. Oh, there we go. All right. Oof. And that is why the hat cannot stay on my head for too long. Did you see that? It just like slammed into the back of my seat. It was madness. The other advantage of coming over here, though, is tea. Personally, I needed that. So we're going to get into it with the zipper feet and everything else. There's usually, if you're buying a modern sewing machine, whether it's brand new or secondhand, although I'd say if you're buying one used, make sure it has all of the feet and attachment that it should come with. You can buy these at your local sewing shop, usually. You know, there's probably a sewing machine repair in your area. Often it's attached to a vacuum cleaner repair. There's got to be an interesting history of why those things are conjoined. I suspect it has to do with gender dynamics. And size of the engines, perhaps. But anyway, I digress. Usually, your modern sewing machine comes with a fairly basic zipper foot. And let's see here. No. I'm being a little bit pig-headed because I don't want to get up again. But also, there we go. All right. So my zipper foot is not in its little home. Shocking. Let's see where it might be. There's one. That was very exciting. Nope. Monsieur, where did it go? What is going on? Why do I keep losing things, Cake? This is very irksome. All right. Huh. Really hard for me to show you the difference if my zipper foot is not there. All right. I have one zipper foot, but I really want to compare and contrast. So thank you for your patience. Fortunately for me, I have two of the same exact machine. So both of them came with the same attachments. And I don't know where the zipper foot is for this machine. And I am like, it's been I love this. You are welcome, Bess. I'm so happy to pay the cat tax. Very important, but also I suspect my cats probably did knock off my other zipper foot. It's either that or the gremlin curse that has been sort of bedeviling me the last few weeks, where little things keep going missing. But anyway, this is a very bog standard zipper foot, as comes with many sewing machines as a sort of standard attachment. You can put in an invisible zipper with it. It's not as easy or as nice as doing it with an invisible zipper foot, but this is a much more, shall we say, sturdy zipper foot. It's a little bit easier to learn on and work with. I like it for putting in just a standard zipper when I'm not doing anything fancy, where the zipper can show, like in a jacket or something like that, a bag, like purse, that sort of thing, where you're not doing an invisible zipper. You don't get quite as close to the teeth with this style, and it's nice because it's fairly easy to change sides, and you do need to be able to do that when you're putting in a zipper. Very important. So let me put this one in its little cubby because I don't want to lose it. The kind of zipper foot I typically use is an invisible zipper foot. Look at how narrow that is. It's just like the middle portion of your presser foot almost. It also moves, so you can change the side of the zipper you are stitching. Often they'll have a little mechanism here in the back. You can unscrew it, and then the zipper foot moves on this bar, so you can change its orientation in relationship to your needle on your presser, so that you can arrange things appropriately with your zipper so you're getting fairly close to the needles, or rather to the teeth. So this is the kind I typically use. It's a little bit fussier, takes a little bit of practice to get used to because it's so narrow. You have to be really attentive to what you're doing with your stitching, and really pay attention to your fabric. So Joanne says, I learned to sew before the days of zigzag machines, and that was the zipper foot that came with those machines. Very classic, Joanne. This is a classic. Now, I'd have to look at my my featherweight to see what the attachments are, because I cannot remember off the top of my head. But I know this is the kind of zipper foot that Kenneth King swears by. A lot of people, once you sort of get comfortable with this style of zipper foot, I think this is the better option. It gives you more flexibility with your zippers. It requires more attentiveness, but you get more precision. This is the kind I use for making piping as well. I also use it for putting in a busk in my corsetry. This is a foot that does a lot of work. If you don't have one of these, it is worth the investment to get one. It's a really multifaceted tool for your sewing machine. So there is that. All right. Oh my goodness. Now, currently, I have been using this foot a lot on my machine. It's not unusual for me to use this a lot. It's a quilting foot, but really the big thing is it helps with the differential of your feed dogs. So if you have a number of layers of fabric and you are dealing with some weird tension issues with your fabric shifting and things like not kind of moving at the same rate, this basically creates a sort of feed action above to match with your feed action below, and it moves the fabric more smoothly together. So I use this a lot for garment making rather than for quilting, to be honest, especially in things like corsets and really heavily layered structured garments. I love this. You can use it just basically as a regular pressing foot. Let's see. Joanne says, my mother's machine was a white, and you have that machine, Joanne. I know you've shown it to us during our sewing socials and our classes, and it's such a beautiful machine. Very similar to the featherweight that I have from my grandmother. So, I don't know your mum's. I don't remember the age of your mum's. My grandmother's featherweight she got in 1951. So it's older, but not like the oldest of featherweights. I think they go back well into the 1930s. That I do love it. Okay. As we are talking about presser feet a little bit, this is your bog standard presser foot. This is the basic presser foot that comes with my machine. I have a Janome. Most of your sort of bog standard presser feet look a bit like this. So, right. Get things set up here. I'm not the last person who sewed on this machine, and I realized the last person who was here put pink thread on the machine, so I need to swap out my threads. Pink will not do for this project. So Joanne says her mum's machine was from the 1930s. Gorgeous. It's such a beauty, everyone. It has Bakelite knobs. Just all of it is really gorgeous. I love these vintage machines. they're wonderful. They're, oh my gosh, I have like a little irritation with my eye. My apologies. They're wonderful. The vintage machines. They're very strong. They have really strong engines. They were more accessible for doing your own repair and maintenance. All of that's so lovely. They don't have all of the bells and whistles we're used to today, but they have a lot of nice features. So I love sewing with my grandmamas. I think I need to get in and get it serviced. I certainly need to oil it and give it a good greasing, if not get it serviced, because it's been sitting for a while. And they will dry out, your vintage machines. So you need to like oil your modern machines periodically, especially if you live in the desert. But the vintage machines actually also need grease in the motor, or your motor can burn up for lack of proper lubrication. So I'm using black thread for this garment. If you don't have an exact match for the fabric, go a little darker, because then the thread disappears into the shadow of the seam and it looks natural. Black is a great neutral in this way for your darker fabrics. Also, in my case, at least for this particular garment, I have a lot of black elements in the garment. It has this gorgeous black border and black trim elements. So it works really well for my particular project. I swear to Tesla. There they are. Scissors. These do not need sharpening. I love these. They are my like little workhorse, perfect for snipping threads, but also great for clipping into seams. They were a birthday gift, so they are monogrammed with my first given name. Very secret knowledge. Right. Ah. Right, I always get my bobbin started a little bit, then I trim off the excess threads and I let it finish spinning up and loading. I'm very short, so it's hard for me to see the bobbin from a seated position. But I can feel its thickness, so there we go. I have filled this bobbin up. I have a lot of stitching to do. Also, honestly, I could never have enough black thread. I love my Janome. It's the Janome Decor XL Pro 5124. It's an older machine. I've had it for a fairly long time. They don't make this model anymore, but if you see one secondhand in good shape, I highly recommend it. It's been a real workhorse for me. It's made a lot of corsets, bustles, bustle dresses, hats, the whole 9 yards. Make sure everything is quiet. Oh, that's why I'm like, why is that so loosey? That's why. Okay. Okay. Glad I checked. The tension was also wrong. So it's always good when you stepped away from your machine or someone else has been using it to check in on what's been going on with it. Not that my friend did anything bad, but she was clearly putting in ruffles when she did this. It was set up for doing ruffles. And I, of course, want a straight stitch. I'm going to be sewing some seams and putting in a zipper. So I don't need a ruffle. All right. So first things first, I need to sew up the seam right below where the zipper is going to go. That's not going to take me very long to do, but it's an important step. We want right sides together for this. So much dress. Okay. So I altered the pattern just a little bit. I changed up the skirt I did for this dress to work with the fabric that I'm using, because I really wanted my beautiful pattern at the hem to show up, not get lost in the skirts. And so I went from a circle skirt to a multi-gore paneled skirt. Right. That meant that this gorgeous trim, this sort of print at the bottom, shows up all the way across the dress. Very happy with it. Put a little pin at my waist to keep that nice and together. Now I'm just going to go in, pin right at the base of where my zipper is going to stop. Don't do that. Don't put your pins in your mouth. That's a very bad habit that I'm still trying to break. It's really dangerous. Not good for you. And also, thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, DJ Crash Crash. Look, I love this fabric. Oh, it's upside down. I love this fabric. I have a tiny amount left. I cut very carefully. I did not properly pattern match because I did not have that much. I had 4.5 yards of this fabric to make this dress. And so I had to cut very carefully. There is no more of this fabric. They don't make it anymore. Turns out it was a limited release during the pandemic from this designer. She had this range of fabric that came out in like 2020. She still makes fabric, but she only does these limited print runs of her designs. And I understand that like that's maybe more normal in like indie quilter spaces, but as a garment maker, I was like, what do you mean? You only made so little. I really had this moment. I was just like, I was agog. But I'm very fortunate. I got just enough to make this dress. And possibly if I cut very carefully, I can make the Grand Arbiter a matching vest to go with it, or waistcoat. So it will not be corseted, though. I don't think I have enough to make a corseted waistcoat for him. I think it has to be a single-breasted, kind of normal waistcoat for him. And then all of the things like the pockets, welts, and the collars and everything have to be made out of black fabric. So we'll see. Thank you very much, Phyllis. Thank you. I love this fabric. So I'm also hoping to ultimately make a bolero to go with this frock. There's definitely not enough of the gray fabric to make a bolero. So I'm doing the bolero out of the same black fabric that I use for the straps and the inset. So it will look like a set. And also then I get a black bolero that I can wear with other garments. So very modular in that way. I'm making lemonade out of lemons, essentially. So, but yeah, I love this fabric, love the designer. I still think I still have her name somewhere in the selvage of the remaining pieces of this fabric. And so I'm going to keep an eye out on her fabric. I will say also about this fabric, the hand for a quilting cotton is very soft. It's so lovely. It drapes beautifully. It also has a very buttery feeling to the fabric. It's 100% cotton. It washes beautifully. I did machine wash my fabric on warm before I, was constructing it. It's been through the dryer. So it's been pre-shrunk. It means it could be laundered again. Now, I will make a note that whilst this is what I do with my cotton and linen fabrics before I go in and stitch garments out of them, I do not launder my clothes this way. So typically what I do with my garments is I wash them all in cold and I hang everything to dry. And like, you might be asking yourselves, why is Madam talking about laundry when we're here to sew? Because we are here to sew. And when you make a beautiful garment, you really want it to last as long as possible. And honestly, I feel this very strongly in a day and age in which we have all of this like fast fashion, things made out of polyester, this very chintzy polyester. Like, look, polyester is not bad in and of itself. I feel complicated about it. I have a complicated relationship with it as a fabric. But if you pick up polyester even from 20 years ago, it is actually a better quality than what is produced largely now. Fabric quality has gone down, fabric variety has narrowed. There's been a lot of shifts in manufacturing of fabric, and fast fashion has a lot to do with that. That said, one of the ways to preserve any clothing of any level, if it is washable garment and not something you have to do special cleaning with, washing it in cold and hang drying it whenever possible will preserve the life of your garment longer. So if you've got some fast fashion garments that you really love and you'd like them to outlive their usual wear time, try washing them in cold. Try hanging them to dry. You might get a little bit more time out of that garment. So all I had to do was talk about laundry, and then I had a hot flash. So I'm going to be sewing in the lower half of this seam under the zipper. The seam allowance in this pattern is 5/8 inch. So that is the seam allowance I'm stitching. I'm using my sort of regular stitch length of 2.5 millimeters. That's sort of the standard stitch length I do for all of my seams. I could go in and baste this seam instead, which is something that we talked about a little bit earlier. But I'm just going to trust Gertie's process. I'm going to give it a whirl, see how it goes. I love to be surprised. I love to learn something new. And I have to admit that Gertie's instructions have not led me astray yet. The only time I've had a problem of any variety is when I decided that I was going to do my own thing. Otherwise, everything has gone off beautifully. And I will say, my own thing I did was not a crazy thing. I just interfaced the inset bra cups using coutil, which is a fabric I use for corset making, and she uses sort of like this interfacing foam like you get inside of bra cups and inside of swimming suits. And with that, you don't have to worry about fraying, and so you can just like cut it without the seam allowance, and then you like zigzag over the join. Means that you don't have any like bulk in your seams. Very beautiful, excellent. The coutil does not work that way. I did grade my seams, but I ended up with slightly bulky seams. So that was the one place I had a challenge. All right, so Bess asked a really good question. So she says, for quilting cottons, she knows Tula Rose and Ruby Star are very popular. I think this might be Ruby Star, Bess. Now I'm like curious because I think I cut off all the selvage in the body of the dress. Let me see if I can grab a piece very quickly and let you know the truth. Also, look at him. Look at him. You know, Monsieur Gâteau. Hello, darling. I know what you want. Look at that face. Look at that face. This is what he wants. You need to take it? You go, oh, sweet. Oh, no, you're supposed to take it out of my hand. There you go, darling. He knows it's treat time. I'm stitching, or I'm at the sewing machine. But let me see. I see a scrap out of the corner of my eye. Let's see if it has the selvage on it. One moment. Oh, my goodness. Scrap. Let's see. I cut this in like a very particular way to make it work, and no, this does not have the selvage still on it. So, my darlings, I will have to look back and see. And somewhere I have a piece of scrap with the name of the designer, but I think it might be Ruby Star. That sounds familiar. So, really beautiful, beautiful designs. I really like what she produces. Whoever it is, I know it wasn't Tula Pink because I'm familiar with her as well. And her name is more familiar to me because Lady June Squirrel loves her so much. All right. So first things first, we're going to put in a back tack. I do just this little small back tack. If you're learning to sew, back tack is where you go forward and then back over those stitches, like 2 or 3 stitches. It creates a sort of knot effect, so your seam will not come undone. It's really important in certain places to be certain you put in a back tack for that very purpose. You don't want your seams to come undone. When you're basting things, you don't need to back tack. In fact, it can be a bad idea. And there are some instances where you may not back tack because you know you're going to finish that seam in a different way, and the back tack could add a tiny bit of bulkiness there, but that's like more advanced stitching, so I would not worry about that when you're getting started with sewing. So you can see here, I'm sort of set up. I'm at my 5/8 seam allowance. I've actually pinned here, which I don't normally do, but I really want to keep things really lined up. And I'm using my big chunky presser foot to keep everything nice, lined up and tidy, so that my layers don't slip with each other. I'm just doing a tiny back tack, 3 stitches. I don't need a lot of back tack there. When I was first learning to sew, I frequently made a very beginner mistake, something lots of people do when they're learning to sew. You're really anxious about your seams coming undone, potentially, at least I was, but a lot of beginning sewists I've talked to also have that concern. Also, there is a sort of very regular anxiety for people who are getting started that your seams will not be straight or straight enough. I always like to remind people your seams only have to be straight enough. You don't want dog legs. You don't want big, curly cues. But if you have a little bubble, it's fine. Move on. Not a big deal. However, if you've got one of those dog legs or big curves, or your seam is really like bobbing and weaving all over the place, you do need to unpick it and stitch again. And when I was learning to sew as a new sewist, I didn't understand that part, that I needed to unpick it and then restitch it. I would just leave the sort of weaving around stitches in, then I would try and stitch over that straighter, and then I would pick out any stitches that were like around the straighter seam, and if I had to stitch that 3 or 4 times to get it straight enough, I would do that. This was a mistake I made all the time as a sewist who was getting started. And so I'd end up with these really thick seams. And those are very hard to unpick, my darlings. It's better to unpick your stitches the very first time. You're like, oh, this seam doesn't look good. With the caveat that a little bubble here and there is not a big deal. You can just keep that seam, give it a press. It'll be fine. The other thing about sewing when you're getting started is that, honestly, you just need to practice sewing straight seams or straight enough seams. They can also be very queer seams, I promise. So you just need to practice. And it's kind of like learning to drive, but instead you've got a small machine rather than a big vehicle. Instead of a big road, you're just trying to learn how to do this hand-eye coordination in this smaller space. This is the same thing. You're training your eyes, your muscles, and your ability to manipulate the fabric. So just take some practice. Once I get to the bottom of that seam, I also finish with a back tack. I just do 3 or 4 stitches again. Easy peasy. Now, I will be ultimately going in, pressing this open and flat. It will make my life easier and better, and also it will make the seam look nice. Very important to press your seams as you go. This is something we talk about a lot around here, the pressing of the seams, making certain that your seams are nice and crisp. If you're somebody who does cosplay of any variety and you want to be entering cosplay contests, masquerades, that sort of thing, provided that they are not contests that are won by popular acclaim. So there are some events that have cosplay contests that are sort of like the audience claps and whoever gets the most applause wins. So that's a different beast. But For the like really the masquerade experience, the thing where you have judges and you get prejudged and there's a rubric, for all of that, pressing your seams will elevate your score and improve the overall look of your garment. So press your seams, my darlings. There are lots of reasons to press those seams. So now I've got my seam stitched. I need to go in, turn it right side out, easy peasy. All this fabric for days. And now, remember how I pressed that 1/2 inch? So I want to sort of unfold that a little bit. Take my zipper. I'm going to unzip it halfway, roughly, part of the way. When I'm said and done, I want my teeth to line up like this on the edge of the fabric. And so I want to fold this out. I'm going to line the raw edge up with my zipper. I want my teeth to be just past the pressed edge. I'm going to unfold that and align my teeth. And I'm going to pin to make my life easier. I'm definitely checking as I go to make sure that my zipper is lined up where I want it to be. I will be taking these pins out as I go, but also look, as I'm going, I can go in, fold it over, check, make sure things are still lined up properly. Such a bad habit. I suspect once you get more comfortable, more confident, you do a lot of zippers, you probably don't need to pin as much, but I'd rather pin than have to take it out. Right. So one of the things about pins, they are a convenience factor, right? They are purely meant to help you be more accurate and tidy. You don't have to pin anything. If you feel like you can arrange your fabric and it stays where you want it to because of the friction of the fabric or what have you, you don't need pins. You're not obligated to pin. There are plenty of things I stitch to use pins. And also as you get more comfortable with your fabric and sewing, you may find you need fewer pins. But when it comes to these kind of fussy bits of sewing, pinning is so helpful, indispensable. I think getting really good pins makes all the difference. You can, of course, get quite inexpensive pins at Michael's. You used to be able to get very inexpensive pins at Joann's. Usually they'd have plastic heads on them. You couldn't press over them. The metal was not as high quality. Look, I am going to read these pins to filth. They would not last you very long. They would rust potentially in your garments, and also they would get dull very fast. Just going up $1 or $2 in the amount that you paid for your pins, you could immediately improve your experience as a sewist. Glass head pins are a really nice option. You can press over them. They are made out of a nicer quality of metal. They will stay sharper longer, and they will fabric. Very nice qualities to have. You'll notice I'm using these pins. They have a really long head on them. These are called comfort grip pins. They are stupid expensive for pins, to be honest. But I love them. They're extremely sharp. They're made for silk, so they're extremely sharp. You can stab the dickens out of yourself. It's a new word, bedickens. Really, I have absolutely injured myself with one of these. They're so sharp, so smooth. The metal is really nice. They slide into my fabric beautifully. And then this sort of long head is, in fact, easy to grip. And if I'm pinning a lot of things, it's really nice to cut down on the wear and tear on my fingers. So I really like them. But also, it's heat resistant. So I can press right over these bloody pins. There's a lot I like about them. So they are stupid expensive, but my goodness, I really like them. They have made things like sewing with silk so much easier. But even here, where I'm pinning my sort of polyester tape from the zipper to the cotton fabric of my dress, it's just so much easier. It's stupid. It's stupid how much easier it is. Not gonna lie. Okay, so now I've pinned all of this in place. Just gonna do a quick check to make certain I'm happy with the position. Easier to do it now. I'm going to just fold everything back underneath. It's pretty good. Now I'm going to go in with my zipper foot. I'm going to be using this narrow little guy. Something that I did not understand when I was first learning to put in zippers is that you can unzip and zip your zipper whilst you're stitching it, and pausing to unzip it or to zip it closed to get that little toggle out of the way as you are putting in the zipper makes all the difference in the world. So keep that in mind. This is not normally the way I would go about putting my zipper in, so I'm also learning as we talk through this process. Right. As a final note, if you are really like, I cannot do the zipper business by machine, you can put your zippers in by hand. It is like totally fine. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is amazing. So, Beth says the way you are setting this up to avoid top stitching will look great, but just so you know, Gertie places the teeth against the fold and top stitches next to them, then puts the other side over it. Okay, my goodness. Maybe I'll go in and do it that way because yeah, no, I'm definitely making it more difficult. Thank you, Bess. It's like la la la. This is sort of half how I normally do it, and not quite how Gertie normally does it. Thank you very much, Bess. Maybe less fussy in the pinning way, says Bess. Absolutely, 100%. I'm just like, this is very fussy. So I'm just gonna go in. I'm gonna top stitch. Although, now I say that, did you all want to see it, what it looks like when you don't top stitch? Because I can just do what I was doing and show you. Ah. I know, I'm going to take a drink. I'm going to pause a moment before I make my next decisions. It's really good. So Bess is a wonderful sewist in her own right, very talented, very skilled. I don't follow Gertie's Patreon. I really admire her work. I think she's great, but I don't really have the budget for her Patreon currently. So Bess, however, is a supporter of Gertie and has got some insight into her approach. And so, and also you've made some things by Gertie in the past as well. You've made that beautiful caftan. I can't wait to see it in person. We're doing caftans at Costume College, everyone. Thursday night. It's going to be great. Really good. So, well, nothing like realizing you are doing the more fussy thing, is there? All right, everyone, let's get into it, shall we? Although, if I'm going to do the other side with top stitching and finish it that way, might as well do both sides top stitched. Make my life easier. Don't tell the Grand Arbiter that I willingly am making my life easier. He will wonder if body snatchers were involved. It is easier to tell that you've got everything lined up just so by doing it this way and top stitching. I'm not going to lie. I don't have to check nearly as often to confirm my position. But also I did all of that, so now it's sort of definitely in the right position. If you're just joining me and us here, I'm putting in a zipper into my new frock. It's a 1950s inspired fit and flare dress based on Gertie's Liz dress pattern. I did very little alteration to the pattern. The only thing I changed up was the skirt. So everything else is done as drafted by Gertie. I really like her pattern. I'm very excited to wear this. I intend to wear it at Costume College. So if you're coming to Costume College, you'll get to see it in person. I'm excited because it's cotton. It'll be a little bit cooler to wear. So that's wonderful. All right. So now I've pinned from the top. You can see the teeth edge just sticking out past the fold of my fabric. This is the underside we're starting with. I've pulled my lining fabric out of the way. I do not want to stitch through the lining. The lining will get finished by hand. So if you are wondering, that is what happens. It's not so much sewing by hand, so I'm not like, oh no, woe is me. But it will make for a really nice finish. All right, I swear to goodness, I keep forgetting direction I want this to be at. Okay. Let me just get this set up and then I will redirect the camera so you can all see what I'm doing. All right. I was like to make certain that my needle is going to miss the presser foot. So I like manually move it into position before I start sewing. When I'm working with this really narrow presser foot, it's very easy to get my needle too close and to break it. So yeah. So yeah, Beth says the way I was doing it, that's the way invisible zips are put in. So might be more familiar if those are what you are used to doing. 100%. Beth, I think I just was defaulting to my knowledge of putting in an invisible zipper. This will be nice to do this different way. So yes, everyone, I was just like, let's make it as hard as possible. I'm going to put in an invisible zipper with a non-invisible zipper. Totally good. Very reasonable behavior. All right. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So I've got my zipper in position. I've got my millions of pins. I've got my needle down. I'm going to have it stop and start in the down position. I'm going to do just a little back tack there. And again, I've pulled my lining fabric out of the way. I don't want to catch the lining fabric in my stitches. As I come up to my pins, I'm going to pull them out as I go. And I'm actually going to be sewing fairly slow here because I want to be accurate and I don't want to break my needle. And you can tell I'm being very careful because I stopped talking. That is a sure sign that I'm really concentrating. I'm also finding all the threads I need to snip still. Okay. You will get to see that I also bobble in some places. So just as solidarity, I try and stitch as straight as possible, but sometimes we just have a little bubble. It's all right. I have a lot of fabric. I'm jamming through the throat of my machine here. You can also see where I need to pull out some stitches, basting stitches, what have you. Little stay stitching, all those things. There's always a little bit of like cleanup as you finish up a garment. Okay, so now I'm going to pause my stitching. I take my foot off the presser foot, very important. And now I'm going to pull that zipper up and out of the way, drop my presser foot. Now we're going to go in and continue. It's just going to be what it is. All right. It's a little bit funny down there. Okay. Bess is right. I'm definitely more familiar with putting in an invisible zipper, which is why I'm like, oh, this is a different approach, but I think it's going to be really good. So I'm excited. Try not to catch up any of your other fabric as you're going. I will say, I do wish I had gotten some of my basting stitches and stay stitching out of the way before doing this. It will be a pain in the tuchus to take some of this out, but it's not impossible. That is what your seam ripper is for. I just put in a little back tack to finish off. That is at least half of the zipper in, my darlings. So if you're like, oh, it's kind of a tedious process. Yes, it absolutely is kind of a tedious process. And it is one of those things, the more you do it, the faster it gets. Also, I'm pausing to talk about things, so it makes it go a little bit more slowly, but half the zipper in. Looks pretty tidy, pretty nice. Like I said, I'm going to have to go in, clean up some, basting stitching, some stay stitching. But now it's ready to do the second half. So I'll be repeating what I just did on the second half of the garment. Just sort of moved over a little bit so that there's a little bit of a lap that sort of obscures the zipper. I'm very excited to have this finished. It's already looking really good. Once I have the zipper in, all I have to do is put my bones in the boning channels. If you were here with me last week, I cut and tipped off my bones. They're ready to go. And then it's the hem. I'm doing a machine hem on this, I think. There's plenty of top stitching and visible machine stitching. So I think I'm just going to do a machine finished hem on it. I'll probably do a narrow folded hem, because I don't want to take up too much of the fabric. I want to preserve as much of the beautiful design at the bottom as possible. And then I hand finished the lining into the bodice. So that's a number of things on my list to do several of them are quite quick. So the zipper was like the big hurdle. And once I get the zipper in, I get to spend some quality time unpicking some of my basting stitches, my gathering stitches, that sort of thing. So not too bad, my darlings. I'm very happy I could get that piece moving forward at last. So thank you all for joining me so much tonight. As always, it's such a pleasure getting to chit chat with you about sewing, about my projects, about the life, the universe, and everything. Since I've also been working on my hat decor for one of my hats that's going to costume college, I thought I would show you a little bit of what that looks like, because I've made huge progress on that since last we talked. So I have all of these like crazy leaves and things that I've made out of silk, including my little fake fiddle heads, which we've now named the riddle head ferns, because they look like little riddles, and because I did them sort of inside out and backwards of how a fiddlehead is, we've decided they are, you know, more made up plants, just like you have in Strange Horticulture, which is a game I love, and it inspired this whole project. So we got these. They are made. I have to get beads and do the hand beading on them because because I'm a fool, basically, because I'm a very cheeky, silly person. So, but one of the things that has happened since we talked is I've started adding my leaves onto the base. This is the little base that is going to attach to the hat. You can see I've started to stitch the leaves in place. And this is, you can see how I'm like just sort of sewing the millinery wire straight on to this surface. I'm using the same kind of stitching technique I use in hat making to attach millinery wire. So these are very firm. The leaves are not going anywhere. They don't have a lot of movement, as you can see. They're pretty firmly in place. I've also carefully bent them into shapes that I like to create a kind of dynamic feel to them. I wanted to give the leaves the feeling of feathers in a hat. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you for the compliment. I'm very pleased with how it's coming together. So I will tell you, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to put a magnet on each end of this rather than just one central magnet, because then I think I can kind of curve this a little bit around the body of the hat and get a little bit of a nicer attachment to the hat that way. I'm very excited. I haven't taught a workshop yet on trimming a hat properly, which means I haven't ever gotten into shaping leaves, or not leaves, feathers with you. I'm not a master at shaping feathers. I have done some work with feathers. And when you go in and you are trimming a hat and you're working with feathers, you can curl them, you can trim them, you can give them some interesting shape. And historical hats and really fine hats these days that are made by professional milliners, the feathers are shaped. These days you can use things like curling irons to help you shape your leaves. You can dye them. You could do so many cool things with your feathers. And I keep saying leaves, but I mean feathers. And so when I was creating these leaves for this hat, I wanted to treat them as I would feathers. So I did a lot of shaping of a similar variety that I would do with feathers. I applied that to the leaves. And because they're made out of silk and they have millinery wire in them to give them a little bit of rigidity, it meant I could just use my hands to physically curl, shape my leaves into these interesting shapes. But this is something that if you are working on trimming out a hat and you want to use feathers, I encourage you to shape your feathers, because they look more interesting and your hat looks more finished than if you just leave your feathers kind of flat. So, and it's pretty user friendly. They react well to things like heat, but also you can just go in and sort of like scratch along the quill portion of the feather with a scissor blade, and you can curve them a little bit that way too. So they're very shapeable, but this is super inspired by how I'd work with feathers. And hold on here. I even remembered, here's the hat. This is what it looks like already going in. Very, very happy with that. Like I said, there's a bit more to do with this. You can see it's really coming together. It's doing what I hoped it would do. It looks like I picked up a bunch of leaves off the forest floor. So one thing that I'm doing is I'm making a couple of leaves out of this very, very bright green, because I feel like this is a little bit dark and it needs some brighter pops in there. So I'm doing a couple of very bright green leaves, as well as my riddle fern fronds, which will go in here somewhere, peeking out. So, and it's very tedious. It's just sitting there, bending things, positioning them a piece at a time, hand sewing it in a piece at a time, whilst I build up the thing to make sure I like the look. I can do a small amount of planning, but really there's an alchemy that happens as I start layering things. So very happy with it though. I think it's coming together really nicely. And it's incredibly light, and I think it's pretty strong. So overall, 3 cheers. I have been taking a lot of pictures, and I hope to do a good write-up for Patreon about this process, so that you too can make your own leaves for your own various and sundry projects. I will leave one final note about feathers. The Audubon Society came into being in part because in the 19th century, so many birds were killed for their feathers for hat decoration. And there's a real concern about being ethical in your use of feathers and how you acquire feathers for hats. So this is a great way to get around using actual feathers from animals. When I do use feathers, I like to use things like chicken or turkey feathers, so nothing endangered, of course, but also you can find some really beautiful vintage feathers in good shape, and those can be used for your hats as well. So just things to think about. But if you're like, oh, I don't want to participate in that problem that happened in the 19th century, good on you. Like, look, it's important to be conscientious. So I'm very careful. I don't use a lot of feathers anymore. I'm also allergic to a lot of feathers, so that's sort of a personal problem. But I'll suffer with allergies for lots of things. So what's a little bit of feather allergies on my hat? So now that I've rambled on at the end, my darlings, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to hang out with you tonight. Happy Bastille Day, everyone. It's a great day to go out and celebrate, you know, égalité, liberté, fraternité. Go out there, see some people you adore. Do something you find liberating. I don't know, take yourself to dinner, get a good cup of tea, maybe have a glass of port, what have you. And also take a moment to do something that will help drive equality. So regardless of what you do, my darlings, on this Bastille Day, please remember to treasure yourselves as I treasure you, because you are irreplaceable. And I want to see you happy, healthy, and having fun with all of us, especially this Friday night when we're doing our 5th annual cog match game in honor of Bastille Day with our special guests, David R. Slayton, Amanda from Yesterqueers, and Shannon McGuire. The Grand Arbiter is going to be there. He's center square. I'm really excited for everyone to give him a hard time, as always. This is one of our virtual events. You will see it everywhere you're watching tonight. And there are still a few spots left for people who'd like to compete. The sign-up form is in my link tree, but also we've posted it to Patreon and the website. So thank you, everyone. Take very good care of yourselves. Cheers and good night.